So wanted to kind of give an update. I finished grading everyone's peer review 2 over the weekend. Little slow on that. That's my fault. I've had a lot going on, but try to get it back to you as much as possible. So I want to talk about a few things that I noticed that I saw, and this is just like kind of like general comments that I saw as patterns. So the first one that I kind of noticed, right, is that, it seems like a lot of you spend a lot more time writing on this, which is good, right? So I could actually see that there were improvements made in terms of writing quality, in terms of sources, in terms of background. So that is noticeable to me. I appreciate y'all taking the feedback from me, and I'm noticing it, right? And that's good. And I know it is like work, right? I know it's not very fun, but ultimately it does lead to a better kind of background and upfront for you. So that part is good. If I think about other ways to maybe kind of improve things a little bit, so in some cases, people, are really fact-based. They cite a lot of articles. And in other cases, sometimes students inject more of their own personal experiences into their work. And, I think there is merit for both, and it depends on the setting. And I think like that is actually really cool that you guys can see like how a lot of these patterns manifest themselves in your own lives. Having said that, I think it is probably best to focus on more like the empirical research because we're kind of writing like more of a research paper. If we were and especially when I think about, assignment requirements down the road where students are asked to include like 10 different references and citations, my concern is that if you guys aren't adding them now, you're not going to be able to meet that assignment requirement later on. And that's kind of a problem because, you're kind of setting yourself up to be hurt later. If we were doing like personal essays or reflections, the personal experiences are totally fine, worth it. And I love that you guys are seeing that. And in the future, I think I would just, kind of focus on making sure that, you're sticking back on the research that you've incorporated. Something else to consider as well is that for this part of the assignment, and then, for part 2 of the final paper down the road, we're looking for overall patterns, and I'm not necessarily looking for why a pattern may be the case, right? So in some cases, students would say, men commit more crime because they have different temperamental issues or there's a biological difference and so on. And while that may be true, that's not necessarily what I'm looking for in this part of the assignment. I'm looking more for evidence of like, what kinds of crimes are men most likely to commit? How does this manifest itself in the criminal justice system? What kind of crimes do women commit? And maybe how that changes over the age part, right? So I think, just focus on like that aspect and just tell me what that pattern is. I don't necessarily need women do this because of Z. I just need to know, the available data say that women are more likely to commit these kinds of crimes, right? I think that would be fine. Something else to consider too is that I think like a lot of our discussions about race ethnicity as a correlate, I think a lot of students focused on, the offending of African American Black people. And while that is a race or ethnic group, I think it's also important to have discussions about, what white people do when they commit crime for Hispanic Latino populations or Asian populations, Middle Eastern, or if we can't answer those questions, why? And that may be because historically we've been really bad at like counting race. So just be mindful of that. Is that, when we're talking about race, right, it's not just one certain race or ethnic group or two for that matter, right? There's a lot of different groups. So the more information that you can provide, the better that's going to be. I think like the other part too, right, is that something to understand like as a grader, right? Like I know you guys are watching the videos. I know you guys are grading and trying to working on the assignments. There is a balance, right? Where I know you guys are doing that outside the classroom, right? So and I know you guys know more than what you write down, but know that I can only evaluate what's on paper. It's also more important for you to answer what I'm looking for rather than demonstrating, the depth of your knowledge. I love that you guys know a lot more. I appreciate that, but I only need you to answer the assignment requirements, right? That's all you need to pass on, and any kind of extra just kind of delays it. And it complicates it because I'm looking for ways to give students points, and there's stuff that's distracting from the main point. It makes it a little bit harder for me to find, and I'm trying to be, as a grader, find reasons to give points, to find reasons for students to pass. So just be mindful of that kind of thing. At the same time, too, related to that is that I can only go by what's on paper. And if the key point is missing from a discussion or an assignment or something like that, I can't infer that this person knows it. So keep in mind that, right? So the content has to be there. It has to be explained. I have to see evidence that someone understands this correlate, understands the pattern, explains what it means, right? And then I'll kind of end with a big conclusion is that we study correlates because they're patterns, right? And patterns mean they're non-random, right? So they're not left to chance. So as a result, we study patterns because they're regularly occurring with respect to crime. So theory should be in a position to explain why we see a repeated pattern of behavior over time. And I think that's kind of what you guys needed. I think some people were closer to that. Some people maybe overthought it. But that's kind of like the core answer I'm looking for. But in general, looking good, big improvement. Looking forward to the next assignment coming up. But if you guys have questions, I got answers, feel free to reach out to me.